So Mean Girls is the latest movie with the cult following to get a remake. But it's not just a remake, it's a musical. From general consensus online, it seems like whenever a reboot is announced for a movie or a show, it's met with negativity. And this can be for a variety of different reasons. Some people just don't want their favorite movie to be messed with in any way, while other people are looking for more new stories rather than harping on the old stories over and over again. But to me, there's something interesting we can take away from the Mean Girls reboot, because we're seeing a movie from 2004 being revived to match with the current cultural expectations and normalities with Mean Girls 2024. Because Mean Girls 2004 is a product of its time, and we can see how it is aged well or not so well compared to the new movie. And Mean Girls itself is an adaptation of a self-help book, turning it into a teen comedy that was turned into a Broadway musical, that the Broadway musical was then turned back into a movie. Like, who would have guessed a self-help book would turn into a Broadway musical? But there are many people that didn't even know Mean Girls had a musical until the Mean Girls 2024 movie was announced. All of my recommended videos on YouTube have been like, Mean Girls 2024 sucks and here's why, and Mean Girls didn't make fetch happen, etc., etc. And I'm going to actually go through the pros and cons and differences of all three adaptations, and then we're just going to look at them and see what we think. And the concept of Mean Girls as a musical may seem kind of random, but it's really not that random if you think about how it's following the trend of movies aimed at young women and teens being adapted into musicals like Legally Blonde, Heathers, Waitress, Bring It On. Historically, stage musicals being adapted into films is a bit of a hit or miss. Most recently, the public perception, I think, of musicals is pretty low after Cats. So this is why I will always be a proponent of pro-shot versions of stage musicals, because sometimes the stage is where it belongs. My Roman Empire is the fact that basically every Broadway musical has been professionally shot. That won't be released to the public, and the only way you can watch it is if you submit a request to the New York Public Library. So when I heard that the 2017 Broadway adaptation of Mean Girls was being turned into a movie, I was interested, but with confusingly vague marketing about it being a musical, and just a reboot in general, making original Mean Girl fans unhappy, and cutting over 10 songs from the Broadway adaptation, making musical theater fans unhappy, maybe Mean Girls, the musical, the movie 2024 was destined to fail. Although Mean Girls can just be seen as a teen movie, it does have very intricate stories and complicated social dynamics between female friends, and all three of the versions of Mean Girls have their own pros and cons about the ways they show characters or show conflict. But before we get into the plot of the three Mean Girls, I'm going to give some background on how Mean Girls came to be. In 2002, Rosalind Wiseman came out with her self-help book, Queen Bees and Wannabes, helping her daughter survive cliques, gossip, boyfriends, and other realities of adolescence. This would be a self-help book aimed at parents to better understand their teenage daughters, with many confessionals from real teenage girls detailing their experiences with cliques, boys, popularity, and other aspects of girl world. As someone who is not a teen girl or a mother, this book was actually very compelling for me to read, and I actually would recommend anyone read it. Most of you probably don't know about Queen Bees and Wannabes, you know about Tina Fey's Mean Girls. Tina Fey is an American actress, writer, and comedian, and longtime writer and performer on SNL. She would also go on to create popular TV shows like 30 Rock and The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. And never writing a feature film before, Tina would set her sights on the nonfiction Queen Bees and Wannabes as her source material for her screenplay. Wiseman would sell the film rights of Queen Bees and Wannabes for $400,000 in 2002. Initially, after writing a raunchy first draft, Tina decided she wanted to make the movie appeal to the PG-13 rating because she wanted younger girls to be able to see it. Originally, when writing the script, Tina also saw herself as playing the role of Rosalind in the movie, and her character would be reduced as she continued to revise it, but she would end up still being in the film as the divorced math teacher Miss Norbury. Mark Waters would come on to direct the movie. He had just finished directing Freaky Friday, starring Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan, and after directing that movie that mostly took place in a high school, he was apprehensive when his agent gave him the script for Homeschooled, which was the working title for Mean Girls, but after he read it, he thought it was brilliant and hilarious, and he wanted to be on board. And Mean Girls, the movie, would be released in 2004, and it would be met with a lot of praise for Tina Fey's script and the acting of the leads. In 2004, the movie would win multiple Teen Choice Awards, and in 2005, it would win multiple MTV Movie Awards. Mean Girls' legacy would live on for many years, and the characters would become very iconic and very quotable. Quotes and memes of Mean Girls would be seen all over the internet. And because of the success and popularity of Mean Girls, for years to come, the cast and crew would be asked about a Mean Girls sequel or reunion. Eventually, in 2011, they would make a standalone sequel, Mean Girls 2, which you could not pay me to watch. I'm sorry. In 2015, there was some news that a Mean Girl spin-off of sorts would be made called Mean Moms that would be centered around Rosalind Wiseman's other book, Queen Bee Moms and Kingpin Dads, dealing with the parents, teachers, coaches, and counselors who can make or break your child's future. And this project would have Jennifer Aniston of Friends fame attached to it. It would be about a small town family moving to a high-class suburb. But this project is on hold and has been since 2015. In 2013, Tina Fey would express interest in wanting to take Mean Girls to the stage, saying, "I'm trying to develop it with my husband, Jeff Richmond, who does all the music for 30 Rock, and I think Paramount is on board." So Tina Fey would write the book of Mean Girls the musical. Jeff Richmond, her husband, would compose the music while Nell Benjamin would write the lyrics. Nell Benjamin had previously worked with her husband Lawrence O'Keefe on Legally Blonde the musical, and Lawrence O'Keefe wrote the lyrics for Heathers, so I think very Legally Blonde Heathers for this music. And Tony-winning director and choreographer Casey Nicholaw would join the team. March 21st, 2017, it would be announced that Mean Girls the musical would have its world premiere in DC for a limited run. It would run from October 31st to December 3rd, 2017, and was Broadway bound. And Mean Girls would begin previews on Broadway at the August Wilson Theater, March 12th, 2018, and it would run for 833 shows, closing in 2020. But despite the Broadway show closing, it would continue to have 2 national tours, and it is expected to open on the West End later this year. In January 2020, Tina Fey would announce that Mean Girls the musical had a film adaptation in development. Originally, Mean Girls was going to be a Paramount Plus exclusive, but after positive test screenings, they decided to have a theatrical release for the movie. The movie would be released January 2024 and would be met with mixed to negative critical reviews, but it was still the highest performing movie at the box office for its first 3 weeks. So now with all of that background, we're going to get into the plot of Mean Girls. And I'm going to go through all 3 adaptations at the same time. This may sound like a confusing way to do it, but this is what makes the most sense for me. So in the original 2004 movie, we go directly into the plot, but in the newer adaptations, we get a little precursor that contextualizes the movie or musical for the audience, where Janice and Damien give a little introductory song to give us a warning about what we're going to see. But in the original movie, we meet Katie, who's a 16-year-old girl who grew up in Africa with her research biologist parents. She's moving and going to American high school for the first time, and she quickly realizes she's out of her depth and doesn't get the social cues. And Katie is played by iconic early 2000s actress Lindsay Lohan, who was in movies like Parent Trap, Freaky Friday, and of course, My Scene Goes Hollywood. In the original movie, Katie is a very subdued character, and although she's optimistic about wanting to make friends, everyone in the cafeteria just looks away from her and she doesn't know where to sit, so she goes to eat lunch in the bathroom. On Broadway, Janice and Damien sing a cautionary tale to the audience.
But how far would you go to be popular and hot? Would you resist temptation? I would not.
And in the original Broadway cast, Janice Sarkeesian is played by Barrett Wilbert-Weed, who's best known for her roles in Bear and Heathers off-Broadway. In Heathers, Barrett played Veronica Sawyer, which is a very Katie-like character who gets involved in a trio of mean girls called the Heathers. and ultimately plans their downfall. Honestly, Mean Girls and Heathers both being turned into musicals, to me only highlighted the similarities between the two of them, because I never really connected how similar the plots of those two movies are. When Mean Girls was announced to be a stage musical, I swear I saw people dreamcast Barrett as Janice, so I think it's cool that she got to play this role. While Damien would be played by Gray Henson, who was in the national tour of Book of Mormon and then later in the Broadway production. For this role of Damien, he would be nominated for Best Featured Actor in a Musical at the 2018 Tonys. While in the new adaptation, Janice and Damien would be recording this song on their smartphone, and Janice Ike would be played by Auli'i Cravalho, and she is best known for voicing Moana in Moana, and she also had a starring role in Rise. I guess I'm going to shoehorn a little Rise reference into all the videos I make. She'd also do the Little Mermaid live TV special for Disney. I was very excited when I heard she was cast in this movie because she has a great voice, and I love seeing her do musicals, and I hope she does more. While Tony nominee and star of The Strange Loop, Jaquel Spivey would play Damien, and they sing a cautionary tale.
You resist temptation, no you would not.
No words changed in this song, and they both sound great. I think these two are the highlight of the new movie for me. And in the musical, we get a transition from Damien and Janice singing to Katie being in Kenya, which is something we don't really see outside of pictures in the original movie. And Katie's singing about how she doesn't really feel like she belongs there, and she sings this song called It Roars.
I'm 16, living in paradise with the lions and birds and stuff, but I'm 16 and it's not enough.
And the song would start with her in Kenya, but by the end of the song, she would be at North Shore High.
Everybody wants connection. Yes, I know they have their plans, but what is one plan more?
After she gets repeatedly rejected and bumped into and ignored by her classmates, bullying through song, of course. And in the Broadway musical, the character of Katie would be originated by Erica Henningsen, who had previously been on Broadway in 2015, playing the role of Fantine in Les Miserables. Erica Henningsen, who heads an extremely likable cast of relative unknowns that is uniformly polished in acting and vocal assignments. Henningsen's demanding part showcases the full range of teenage emotions, along with athleticism and, of course, vocal chops. She nails them all. But Erica's Katie is quite a departure from Lindsay Lohan's Katie, as she's much more of an optimistic, quirky, outgoing girl. But I think the subtlety in the original movie, although it is great for the movie, to be translated to stage, everything needs to be like bigger and bolder, right? So I don't know if the subtlety of Katie's character on Broadway would work as well. I like the changes to Katie's character, but I could understand the argument where people feel like her new character isn't telling the same story. But in It Roars, Katie would sing about yearning for friendship and a place to belong. In the 2024 adaptation, I would say Katie's kind of a mixture between the musical version and the original version. For the new movie, they would write a original song for Katie's character called What Ifs that she would sing in place of It Roars, which was written by Jeff Richmond, Michael Pollack, Nell Benjamin, and Renee Rapp. Throughout the song, she learns that her mom accepted a position at Northwestern and they're going to move. They give a little bit of backstory here, like she originally rejected the offer, but then Katie was upset about it, and then she decided to accept the offer. Also, Katie's dad is dead? I don't know. He's not there. And Katie's mom would be played by Jenna Fisher of Office Ladies fame. And after she learns from her mom that she's moving, she gets very excited, and she said,
Don't wanna run out of time before I wake up and find there was a life that I missed.
but I honestly don't really care for this song. It's a little too vague compared to the other musical songs that are very straightforward. For Katie's songs, I think they tried to make them a lot more pop focused to appeal to a broader audience than, over the top belty Broadway songs that not everyone likes. But you know that there's nothing I love more than the cutting room floor, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the changes they made from pre-Broadway to Broadway. Because if you don't know, while musicals are in previews or doing off-Broadway tryouts, they test out a lot of different material.
A lot of people have been like, what happened to this thing from DC? What happened to this thing that we heard was in the lab? Guys, shows take on so many different permutations before we freeze them for Broadway. Our writers wrote some incredible stuff that never saw the Broadway light of day.
The cast members would talk about in the DC production, there was daily changes to the musical that they had to learn that day to perform at night, particularly the opening song.
The opening sequence is such a good example because there were 9 different songs, not just lyrics, but like melody lines and how things were cut together. And at one point we had her parents, and then we cut her parents, and then there was a big fight sequence, and then we cut the fight sequence, and then we put her parents back, but they were singing something else. And I mean, just the whole number was new every single night.
Originally, this song was called Wildlife, but they would decide to cut it after they felt it didn't display Katie's emotions enough. And this song would ultimately be turned into It Roars. After Katie faces rejection, Katie would go to the bathroom to eat her lunch, and she would sing.
Did you ever get the feeling expectations need adjusting, and you need to lick your wounds in the ladies' bathroom stall?
And while she's in the bathroom eating her lunch, Janice and Damien would come in and tell her that they're going to help her. In the original movie, Janice and Damien would be played by Daniel Franzese and Lizzie Kaplan. Janice's name would be Janice Ian after the American singer-songwriter Janice Ian, whose song At 17 appears in the background of this movie. Janice and Damien would lightly pressure Katie to skip class, but she goes along with it pretty easily because she wants to make friends. And Janice and Damien introduce Katie to all the different cliques at the school. And she's told about the most popular girl in school, Regina George, who everyone at North Shore is jealous of, worships, sensationalizes, and fears. Rachel McAdams, who would be in The Notebook that same year, would play Regina George. Honestly, the only movie I've ever seen her in besides this is Doctor Strange, so let me know what movies I should watch with her in it. And I've never seen a Nicholas Sparks movie because I've always wanted to read the books, but I've never read any of the books. But that's why I've never watched any of the movie adaptations. But Nicholas Sparks deep dive, I don't know why I wrote that in my notes. We learn about Gretchen, who is a gossiping toaster strudel heiress, played by Lacey Chabert, who would appear in over 30 Hallmark films, which is just too many Hallmark films. And Karen would be played by Amanda Seyfried, who would be a breakout star from Mean Girls, who would go on to star in many of her own movies like Letters to Juliet and Mamma Mia. Some interesting tidbits, I guess, about the casting for this movie I found out is that Rachel originally auditioned for Katie, but they felt like she was too old for Katie. They wanted her to play Regina instead. And then Lindsay Lohan originally wanted to play Regina, but they felt like she would be a better Katie, and it worked well as Lindsay was a little bit intimidated by Rachel because she was older and a more established actress. So they ended up having Rachel McAdams play Regina George, who was 25 at the time. And some other actresses they considered for the role of Katie were Kristen Stewart, Mae Whitman, and Michelle Trachtenberg, while other actresses that they would consider for Gretchen were Ashley Tisdale, Vanessa Hudgens, and Mary Elizabeth Winstead. And some actresses who would audition for the role of Karen in the film were Haley Duff, Kate Mara, Megan Fox, Blake Lively, and Leighton Meester. And some actresses who were considered for the role of Janice were America Ferrera and Kat Dennings, who would actually both be great in this role, I think. And some actors who would be considered for the role of Aaron Samuels, who we'll be introduced to later, are Penn Bradley, Jared Padalecki, and Max Minghella. This is making me realize I could not be a casting director because all of these actresses and actors would be good in this movie. I also think it's kind of a weird little like butterfly effect that Blake Lively, Leighton Meester, and Penn Bradley were all considered for Mean Girls, but then they would all be in Gossip Girl later. So maybe if they were in Mean Girls, they wouldn't have been in Gossip Girl. Or like Kristen Stewart, maybe if she was in Mean Girls, she wouldn't have been in Twilight. So in the musical, of course, when Damien and Janice are explaining the cliques, they do it in song.
Where do you belong? Where do you belong? Varsity jocks and JV jocks will throw you in a locker if you say hello. The rich stoners hate the gangsta whites, though they're all smoking the same oregano.
So the musical has some different genres of music within it, but all of Damien's songs are very Broadway songs, I would say. At the end of the song, Janice and Damien invite Katie to sit with them.
We're not exactly joiners, but we'll be good friends to you. Here's where you belong. Here's where you belong.
Then the mood changes when the plastics enter the cafeteria. We are introduced to the three most popular girls in school, and they sing a song called Meet the Plastics.
I've got money and looks. I am an electro with power. Prettiest poison you've ever seen. I never weigh more than 150.
Which is the most controversial line in the musical, but we'll talk about that later. And at the original Broadway cast, Regina would be played by Taylor Louderman, and Taylor Louderman is best known for originating the role of Campbell in Bring It On, the musical, on Broadway.
Hey, listen, I'm sorry I haven't gotten a chance to see Bombshell, but I hear that tourists love it.
Thanks. I tried to see Bring It On, but it closed so fast I didn't get the chance.
And Campbell is also a very Katie-like character in Bring It On. Taylor would be nominated for Best Performance by a Leading Actress in a Musical at the Tony Awards. We meet Gretchen, who is Regina's obsessive assistant whose hair is full of secrets.
Yes, Regina, no Regina. Every waking hour, I've been making sure Regina George can stay in power. I wear your secrets out of you and bring them to my master. Then I watch Regina make your life a big disaster.
Gretchen would be played by Ashley Park, who would be in a number of Broadway shows like Mamma Mia and The King and I, and now she is a lead in the Netflix show Emily in Paris. She would also have a small role in the 2024 movie of Mean Girls as the French teacher, and Ashley Park would be nominated for Best Performance by a Featured Actress in a Musical for her portrayal of Gretchen Wieners. And we would meet Karen, who still doesn't know how to spell orange.
My name is Karen. I may not be smart. That's it.
And Karen Smith would be played by Kate Rockwell, who was also in the original Broadway cast of Bring It On as Skylar, who is kind of like the Regina of Bring It On the musical. You know who else is in the Bring It On musical?
Angela Bassett did the thing. Viola Davis, my woman king. Blanche Kate, you're a genius. And Jamie Lee, you are all of us.
Karen has like these very introspective feminist takes throughout the musical. This is kind of cut in the new movie, but they use Karen as kind of like a mouthpiece for the feminist ideas that they want to talk about in the musical. And Meet the Plastics to me is very similar to the song Beautiful in Heathers, where we meet the Heathers and then she introduces them all. I think because Barrett Wilbert Weed does both, it adds an extra layer of similarity.
And Heather Chandler, the Almighty. She is a mythic bitch. Of solid Teflon, never bothered, never harassed.
Tina George is the queen bee. We're just drones who work for her, then die.
But it's kind of like a fun homage to Heathers. In the 2024 adaptation, this scene would play out somewhat similar. Rather than singing, he just introduces Katie to all the cliques through dialogue. We see Damien has a little flirty moment with one of the theater kids. Katie ends up asking them, "Can I just sit with you guys?" And while they're in the cafeteria, the lights begin to flicker in a horror movie way, and then Regina enters the cafeteria with her cheese fries.
Whatever. I'm getting cheese fries.
Regina sings Meet the Plastics, but we just hear Regina's part in Meet the Plastics. Gretchen and Karen don't sing here, which is kind of a bummer because this is the only song in the musical where the Plastics sing together. And I kind of wish the Plastics had like a cool trio ruling the school song. So we're introduced to the new Mean Girls.
My name is Regina George.
Renee Rapp would play Regina George, who is a pop artist and best known for her role in HBO's Sex Life of College Girls. And they would change one of the lines in Meet the Plastics to, rather than, "and I never weigh more than 115, she would say,
That filter you use looks just like me.
BB Wood would play Gretchen.
That is so fetch.
I know her from Love Victor, the Love Simon spinoff. She would play Lake.
You are literally dating the most gorgeous guy at Creekwood.
Well, I mean, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So.
Yeah, behold Benji, bitch.
And the Indian American actress Avantika would play Karen in this film.
Wednesdays we wear pink.
And I do want to take a moment to celebrate and praise all of these women who are the plastics in all adaptions, just because I've seen some people say not so nice things about them online and pit them against each other. And although I don't expect you to love every single thing about all of their performances, I just wish people would be like a little bit nicer when talking about them online and just not comparing them to each other as much. And I just think it's kind of ironic given the premise of Mean Girls, the musical, is to uplift women, and it's all like, don't pit women against each other. Calling someone ugly won't make you any prettier. And the fandom's like literally doing that. Because you can compliment a performance and critique a performance without dragging other actresses into it. I understand the desire to, because they're playing the same role, so people will want to be like, well, this is the best Regina, this is the worst Karen. I don't know. I think that's just kind of a toxic way to look at it. I hope that makes sense. And while they're in the cafeteria, their classmate Jason approaches Katie and makes like innuendos at her, and she doesn't understand. She freezes up, and then Regina swoops in to defend Katie from Jason and humiliates Jason in front of the cafeteria. And this is a great example of Regina using her power to defend someone, and it's the first time Katie gets to see Regina's influence in a positive way. And she uses her power to protect Katie. And after this happens, Regina asks Katie to sit down with them so she can talk to her, and she gives her lots of compliments and attention, but there's a tone of unease.
You're like really pretty. Thank you. So you agree? What? You think you're really pretty?
And then Gretchen tries to make the slang fetch happen. This is an important part of Gretchen's character in all the adaptions, is she wants to make the slang fetch happen, which is like, fetch is like cool. Like, that's so fetch. It's like, that's so cool. In the 2024 movie, Gretchen has a line where she says she thinks it's from an old movie or something, like Juno, but we know it's Mean Girls. They tell Katie to give them some privacy, and then Katie to sit with them for the rest of the week. Before Katie can respond, Regina goes into singing again.
Really do this, but how'd you like to have lunch with us this week? Oh, it's okay. No need for you to thank us. There's no need to even speak.
The plastics follow the archetypes that Rosalind Wiseman talks about in Queen Bees and Wannabes. For example, Regina George is obviously the queen bee, who is very charming, charismatic to friends, peers, teachers, parents, is good at manipulating people, is good at intimidating other girls, and her friends follow her lead. And she won't take responsibility for hurting others' feelings. Gretchen is kind of a hybrid character because she follows the archetype of the sidekick pretty well, where she's the second in command and is most desperate for Regina's approval. And Gretchen also follows the archetype of the banker who stores information about her friends and classmates and then uses it against them. I would say Karen doesn't really follow any of the archetypes in the book because we really don't know that much about how she feels about Regina. I guess I would just say she's a follower. Especially in the newer adaptions, she doesn't have the same allegiance to Regina that Gretchen does. And Katie is a bit of a pleaser wannabe because she follows what Janice and Damien want pretty easily, and then when the plastics express what they want her to do, she also follows that. She doesn't really have good boundaries for telling people no. And Janice is the target, who is the girl that's made fun of and humiliated by the popular clique. She dresses different from the other people at the school. And I do like in the newer adaptions how they expand on Janice and Damien's friendship and show more of them as characters and their friendship with Katie. So Katie tells Janice that Regina asked Katie to sit with them for the rest of the week. Janice says that she should spy on Regina for her and tell her all the stupid stuff she says. And Katie doesn't understand why Janice and Damien dislike Regina so much, and Janice is cagey about the reason why, but Katie wants to stay in Janice and Damien's good graces, so she just goes along with it. Then Katie goes to math class, where we meet the math teacher, Miss Norbury, played by Tina Fey. The movie would also feature 2 other SNL cast members, as Tim Meadows would play Principal Duval and Amy Poehler would play Regina's mom. In the math class, we meet the other important students in the film, Kevin Nampour, who is played by Rajiv Surendra, and we would meet Aaron Samuels, played by Jonathan Bennett, and he would introduce himself to Katie by asking if she has a pencil he can borrow. Katie would instantly get a crush. In the musical, this plays out pretty similarly. Kevin does have a weird line where he says, "I'm going by Kevin this year," and then Miss Norbury says, "Yeah, me too." And I'm like, what does that mean? In the Broadway production, Carrie Butler would play Miss Norbury. She would also play the role of Miss Heron and Miss George. Carrie Butler is best known for Beetlejuice, which she would leave Mean Girls to do. And we would meet Kevin G, played by Cheech Manohar, and Rick Younger, who would play Principal Duval. And we'd be introduced to the Broadway Aaron Samuels, played by Kyle Seelig. Kyle Seelig, who would be a Book of Mormon standby and then replacement on Broadway. And I'll say it, he was a hot teacher in the Monster High movie. Broadway adaptation of Mean Girls, I quite like Aaron's character. Literally in the original movie, all he says is like, "Can I borrow a pencil?" So he actually is a little interested in Katie, which is cute. And Katie sings the song "Stupid with Love" after she is introduced to him. It's a cute song where Katie sings about not understanding love, so she turned to learning math for comfort. This is also a good song in the musical where the balance between the humorous lyrics works pretty well. The lyrics in this song are like objectively kind of stupid, but they play it off in a way that I think works. And she opens it by saying,
When I was 5, I fell in love. It didn't last. He ran from me, literally ran from me. And being Kenyan, he ran fast.
This was cut from the new adaptation when Katie sings this song. I can see why. And in the song, she sings a line that I love.
Jinx.
Huh? I'm astounded and nonplussed. I am filled with calculus. Does this guy work out? He must. I'll sweaty at the gym.
Which is such a stupid line, but I think it works well in the song. So in the 2024 adaptation, Tim Meadows and Tina Fey would come back as Miss Norbury and Principal Duval.
Kevin G would be played by Bangladeshi American actor and singer Mahi Alam. He is also currently an NYU student.
And Christopher Briney would play Aaron Samuels in the 2024 film, and he's best known for playing Conrad in The Summer I Turned Pretty. I saw Tina Fey say that she took a survey of teen girls and they unanimously wanted him to play the role of Aaron. And he would introduce himself to Katie, and she would have a similar love at first sight reaction. She goes to a daydream world to sing Stupid with Love. They changed this song quite a bit from being more of a Broadway song to more of a pop song.
Smart with math, but stupid with love. I wanna get it.
The main thing I don't like about this version of the song is some of the more dorky lyrics don't translate as well when they're kind of sung in a more serious way.
I'm astounded and nonplussed. I am filled with calculus. Does this guy work out? He must.
And I think to make the love story more impactful, they decide to expand on Aaron's character, particularly in the musical. In the new movie, they cut back the changes they made to his character. So I don't know if they found the right balance. And whether you want to see Aaron as a pawn in Regina and Katie's game, or you want to see him as a romantic lead. Katie goes to her mom's car to be picked up for school, and she almost steps in front of the school bus, foreshadowing to what's going to happen at the end of the movie. Then the movie becomes a little car commercial because her car is looking more pristine than I've ever seen a car look in real life. I kind of hate seeing cars in movies. It's always so obvious that it's a product placement. And then Katie tells her mom something that no mother wants to hear. Can you pick me up around the block? In the musical, they have a fun little costume change to Wednesday where Damien and Katie transfer shirts to each other, and then Janice says a bit about how pink isn't an inherently feminine color. And while Katie is at lunch with the Plastics, Gretchen gives her a lowdown about all of the different rules that the clique has, which basically boil down to you have to look hot and not be independent, but also shows the amount of expectations the clique has on each other. They all expect each other to dress nice and fall in line. And these rules may seem like a over-exaggeration of how teen girls act, but in the book Queen Bees and Wannabes, a confessional from one of the teen girls that Rosalind Wiseman talks to is basically word for word what Gretchen says in this scene. My group has rules and punishments about everything. There are 7 of us and there can only be 7. We have rules about what we wear. You can only wear your hair up, like in a ponytail, once a week. You can't wear a tank top 2 days in a row. You can only wear jeans on Friday, and that's also the only time you can wear sneakers. If you break any of these rules, you can't sit with us at lunch. Monday is the most important day because you want to look your best. It sets the tone for the rest of the week. If you want to invite someone to lunch outside of the group, you have to formally invite them and the group has to vote on it. We do this because it's like buying a shirt without your friends telling you whether you look good in it or not. You may like someone, but you could be wrong. Kevin asks Katie to join the mathletes after seeing how great she is in math class, but the plastics immediately shut it down when Katie expresses interest in possibly wanting to join the mathletes. All of the plastics go to the mall. While they're at the mall, Gretchen sees Jason, the guy she's been having a bit of a situationship with. He's talking to another girl. So Regina comes to Gretchen's rescue and calls the girl's mom on the phone and says she's Planned Parenthood and that the test is positive. Almost directly referenced in a New York Times article from 2002 titled Girls Just Want to Be Mean by Margaret Talbot, which is about Rosalind Wiseman's book, Queen Bees and Wannabes. She would say that the Australian researcher Lawrence Owens found that the girls treated their own lives like soaps, hoarding drama and constantly rehashing trivia. Owens' studies contain some of the most vivid anecdotes in the earnest academic literature on relational aggression. His subjects tell him about ingenious tactics like leaving the following message on a girl's answering machine. Hello, it's me. Have you got the pregnancy test back yet? Knowing that their parents will be the first to hear it. They talk about standing in huddles and giving other girls death, stares of withering condescension, and calling one another slut, fat, and of enlisting boys to do their dirty work. While in the Broadway musical, they still go to the mall, but Janice and Katie are having a debate about how Regina seems pretty nice. And then in this song, Apex Predator, Katie sings about how she's being seduced by Regina's power and enjoys being part of her pride, while Janice is trying to remind her that Regina isn't as nice as she seems. And they sing a great, powerful duet here, where Katie is accepting that she likes being one of the plastics, saying,
She's the queen of beasts, and I'm in her pride. I have hitched a ride with the apex predator, and it's kind of fun when she bears her claws, when I'm safe because I'm with the apex predator.
Katie is relating everything around to the animal kingdom and what she's grown up with and what she knows. And during this song, all of the ensemble is doing animal-like dance moves. We see Regina being the center of attention, and she's throwing pretzels to the classmates to eat. And I think this is a fun concept of just taking a line from the original movie where Katie says that the mall fountain is like the watering hole in Africa, and then expanding it into a whole song. And during the course of the song, Gretchen asks Katie if there are any boys she likes, and she says that she's interested in Aaron, and then finds out that Aaron and Regina used to date.
Aaron Samuels?
You can't like Aaron Samuels. That is Regina's ex-boyfriend.
In the 2024 adaptation, this song takes place in the high school courtyard rather than at the mall. I think this could be for a variety of reasons. I know the film had a tight filming schedule and also a kind of low budget, so that could be the reason they didn't go to the mall. But I also feel like maybe malls aren't as relevant to teens now. Rather than this being a duet between Janice and Katie, it becomes a duet between Janice and Damien, which is a little bit confusing because in the musical, Katie's singing about the positive aspects of being with Regina, but in the movie, Damien is singing these lines, so they switch around all the pronouns and stuff to kind of make them make sense. And at first, I was like, why would they do this? But I think because all of Damien's songs are cut in the movie, it's nice that he gets a spotlight song.
And oh, Janice is great. She does not have this power.
People literally cower. Janice can't do that.
This is one of my favorite songs from the movie, especially probably the best ensemble song. And they do a great job making like the dance moves, and classmates all acting like animals, I think was really funny. And they took the concept of the choreography on stage and brought it to the film, I think in a fun way. But I will say, Auli'i had no business singing
Every food chain has its acne
in such a beautiful way. I have to say, I hate Regina's top in this scene. I was going to talk about the fashion later, but I just saw in my note that I said, I don't have a lot of strong feelings about the costuming in Mean Girls 2024, but I hate Regina's top here. After they go to the mall, Regina buys Katie heels. They go to Regina's house, where she has a very nice house, and we meet Regina's mom, played by Amy Poehler. We see that Regina's mom wants to be her friend rather than a parent to her and follows Regina's rules rather than Regina following hers. She's pretty disrespectful to her mom, even in front of her friends. And Katie is introduced to the self-hating side of Girl World, where the three most beautiful, popular girls at her school are scrutinizing and criticizing every small detail about their bodies, and Katie is expected to join in and share in their self-hatred, and she does. And while they're hanging out in Regina's bedroom, Karen conveniently stumbles upon the Burn Book, which is a book that they glued pictures of girls in their grade and wrote mean things about them in. And the Burn Book just looks like a movie prop, you know what I mean? I like thinking about all of the hours one of the girls spent, like, kissing it and cutting out each letter and stuff. Because I'm like, who did that? Was that Gretchen? Was that Regina? Was that Karen? In the new movie, they have a little line where they made it the week that their phones were taken away. And in the Burn Book, Janice's page simply says the homophobic slur for gay women. The plastics point to Damien, and they're like, who's that kid? Katie repeats something that Janice said, he's almost too gay to function. But she meant it in a playful way and not a homophobic way. But it seems like the plastics are homophobic, so they're not taking it in that lighthearted way. In the musical, we meet Regina's mom, who's also played by Carrie Butler, and she would have a couple update jokes about being at Cool Mom, and she would talk about how she conveniently found Regina's Burn Book in her closet. And the girls show Katie the Burn Book, and they see Janice's page that just says space, the slur for gay women. And Regina tells a story about how Janice went crazy after they used to be friends in middle school, but then she became obsessed with her. She would say,
she was like obsessed with me, but then when I couldn't invite her to my 13th birthday party because my mom said I could only have 6 people, she went insane.
And this is all Katie knows about Janice and Regina's backstory because Janice hadn't said anything about it. And Karen and Regina leave the room while Gretchen feels extremely anxious that Regina's pushing her away, and she doesn't know why, and she feels like she's being slighted by Regina all day. And then she starts to sing the song, What's Wrong With Me? This was one of the first songs written for the musical. In it, she says,
tell me all my many faults. Tell me like you care when we both know you're cruel.
And I think this song does a great job humanizing Gretchen's character and showing how desperate she is for Regina's approval, how she wants to follow Regina's lead, and she wants to be told what to do because she doesn't know what to do independently. She needs Regina's guidance. In the new movie, rather than having a convertible, Regina has an open-door Jeep, and she pulls up to her very modern house where they meet her mom. In this adaptation, her mom is played by Busy Phillips. I only really know Busy Phillips from Girls 5 Eva, but she's great in that. I like that show, and I love Sarah Bareilles. Looping it back around, Jeff Richmond, the composer of Mean Girls, also composes the music for Girls 5 Eva, and Tina Fey is an executive producer on that show. Also, Ashley Park and Erica Henningsen have recurring roles on Girls 5 Eva as versions of the girls when they're teenagers. Well, one of them died in an infinity pool accident, and the other one is a young version of one of the other cast members. And in this version of the Burn Book, Janice is a pyro-les, and Regina tells Katie that,
oh my god, she was obsessed with me. And then when I got my first boyfriend, she lit my backpack on fire.
And Gretchen goes into the closet and she finds a music box that she gave Regina, and then she sings the song What's Wrong With Me while Katie's in the room. And I like how this song was presented in the movie.
How I speak, how I dress.
So back in the original movie, Katie tells Gretchen that she likes Aaron, and then Gretchen tells Regina. And when Regina finds out, she tries to instigate drama between Gretchen and Katie, asking Katie if she's mad that Gretchen told her while Gretchen is on the other line. Obviously, landline eavesdropping isn't really a thing now, but I think it's an important element of the movie showing how the girls talk about each other behind their back. And I'm surprised that the new movie didn't incorporate this with group chats or something like that. Because in the new movie, the main social media that they incorporate is like wide-scale TikTok hate and bullying, and like the drama between the girls becomes viral on TikTok. The original movie does a great job of showing the infighting between the plastics.
I'm not mad. I mean, I guess she just likes the attention.
See, Gretch, I told you she's not mad at you.
I can't believe you think I like attention.
Okay, love ya. See you tomorrow.
Katie tries to flirt with Aaron in math after Regina gives her the okay, but she keeps coming off as awkward. Katie runs into Miss Norbury at the mall and she's asked to join math leads again. So Katie pretends not to get the math problem to have an excuse to instigate a conversation with Aaron, and once they start talking, he invites her to a Halloween party. And in the musical, this scene takes place musically in a Stupid with Love reprise, where Aaron talks about his relationship with Regina.
I just don't get it. I just don't get it. All I get is stupid with love.
And after Katie realizes that she can find a way to talk to Aaron by asking him to tutor her in math.
Acting dumb times X equals love.
Hey, what's the date?
October 3rd. My new favorite day.
But unfortunately, in the new movie, this song is cut because Aaron doesn't sing. And I think Christopher does a great job with this role, but I wish he sang. And then we lead into everyone getting ready for the Halloween party.
In girl world, Halloween is the one night a year when a girl can dress like a total slut and no other girls can say anything about it. The hardcore girls just wear lingerie and some form of animal ears.
And we see Karen and Regina did just that. And this is one of the best songs in the musical. Karen talks about how society expects women to dress sexy for Halloween, but she loves it.
I can be who I wanna be and sexy. I can be who I wanna be and hot. Don't like who you are, then hit that costume shop.
And I think this is a great ironic song to show a critique on modern feminism, but in a playful way.
This is modern feminism talking. I expect to run the world in shoes I cannot walk in.
But in this song, there's also some interesting lines like,
A sexy Quinn from Sexy Jaws catching sexy shots. Sexy Eleanor Roosevelt or sexy Rosa Parks.
and this is changed to,
Or sexy Joan of Arc.
and I'm like, ooh, they should have changed that line earlier. What Nell Benjamin would say about this song is, we love the idea of letting Karen begin the song, but start over when she goes to the wrong lyrical path. It's the perfect way to let the audience know that even though she's not as smart as the others, Karen is in control. She's in charge of her own moment in the spotlight. Of course, from there, it turns into a mega electric dance number about empowerment. In the new film, Karen sings this song on the phone, and it's multiple TikToks being transitioned together and other people also dressing up in different Halloween costumes. And I think this is a fun way to represent this song. So after all of that getting ready, we learn that Karen is a mouse, Gretchen is a cat, and Regina is a rabbit. In the new movie, Regina's wearing a somewhat elaborate dove costume, and I don't know if I feel like I like this costume, mainly because I don't feel like it fits her character. And because Regina is the queen bee that Gretchen and Karen both look up to, I wish that they changed Karen and Gretchen's costume to reflect more closely of what Regina was wearing. But when Katie arrives to the party, she's wearing this full dead bride makeup in like a full wedding dress, and everyone is like, why are you dressed so scary? And she feels embarrassed that she didn't know that in girl world you're supposed to dress slutty for Halloween, because she's never experienced it before. And we learn in some dialogue that Karen's been kissing her first cousin, I guess. And in the newer adaptions, we have a great line from Gretchen once Katie shows up in the full wedding dress.
Katie, if you don't dress slutty, that is slut-shaming us.
Which is just a super fun line and very self-aware, kind of like I said, critiquing modern feminism. And Regina learns that Katie was invited to the party by Aaron. And this scene plays out over text on screen, and normally I'm very critical of how text on screen looks because I feel like that's like the one thing I know how to edit. I feel like this one's good though. It looks good and they do a good use of it. I actually feel like, in a rare change of my normal opinion on this, I feel like there could have been more texting on screen in this film than there actually was. So while at the party in the musical, Katie and Aaron have a chat where Aaron accidentally tells Katie that his mom lies about their address so he can go to North Shore High, which is like a little bit of a random subplot, but it'll obviously come back later. And he asks how she did on the math test, and she got 100, but she lies and says she had a 60 and maybe needs help. After this, Regina goes to talk to Katie, and she's going to talk to Aaron for her and try to set them up. But when she says, "Be careful, she has a crush on you," and he seems genuinely interested, she gets upset and realizes that she needs to stop this relationship from happening. In the movie, she does this by basically insulting Katie and saying,
"I know she's kind of so and weird, but she's my friend, so just promise me you won't make fun of her."
And after this, Regina kisses him, and Katie sees. In the musical, this happens in Regina's solo Someone Gets Hurt, where she sings a seductive song and plays the victim in their relationship, even though she broke up with him for Shane Oman. But in the end, she gives up the subtlety and just says, "And God, you're hot, why do you even wear a shirt?" And then Aaron is seduced by what she says and starts singing along with her, and they sing to each other that they're both fine. Before having a dramatic stage kiss. What I think is funny about this song is they performed it at a lot of press events for the show, and I feel like it's always so weird at the end when they start singing "And God, you're hot, why do you even wear a shirt?" to like a crowd of people.
It's fine for you, it's fine to flirt, and God, you're hot, why do you even wear a shirt?
There's also this famous clip of this show where Cameron Dallas would temporarily play the role of Aaron, and on Broadway someone recorded it where she's like singing to him and he just doesn't say his lines and just stands there and stares at her. But he also doesn't sing along in the new movie. Renee kills this song. But they do kind of weird gyrating dance moves that I don't really like, and then there's a lot of fans. And this is a great song showing Regina's ability to manipulate people.
This is performance.
But I feel like something in this song is missing for me. Like, I think it's probably the best song in the musical, but I'm like, it's not S+. And Regina ends the song by kissing Aaron in front of everyone. This kind of plays out differently than the original movie because she kisses him and then he pulls away and is like, "You're the one who broke up with me." But in the new adaptation, he's choosing to kiss her. So Katie runs away. She goes to Janice and Damien for comfort and revenge, and she feels like she's finally been pushed over the edge by Regina, and she wants to take Regina down. In the musical, Damien reveals to Katie why Janice hates her.
Regina came up to Janice before school where no adults could see her and was like,
Janice, I can't invite you to my pool party because I think you're a lesbian. What did Janice say?
What could she say? It wasn't a real question. It was just like an attempt to snatch her dignity. She didn't know why her friend was doing this to her, so she just yelled,
"I am a space alien and I have 4 butts!"
It was a bad choice. But she was 12, and by lunch someone had Sharpied space on her locker. After that, no one would talk to her, and it got really bad, and her parents pulled her out of school for the rest of the year.
And in the new movie, Damien would tell this very elaborate story about how they all had Beanie Babies, and Janice put a pride pin on hers to come out to Regina.
Sissy Liz was short for obsessed lesbian. Regina had been making fun of Janice this entire time.
Rather than this convoluted story in the movie where Janice and Regina kiss, I guess, in the original movie, Regina accuses Janice of being jealous of her boyfriend and then asks her if she's gay because she doesn't want to invite her to her pool party.
And I'd be like, "Why are you so obsessed with me?" "Janice, I can't invite you because I think you're a lesbian."
And once Katie learns this backstory about Janice and Regina, she feels bad for Janice and wants to go along with the revenge party even harder. So they start to sing the song Revenge Party. And this song has kind of stupid lyrics, but it's a fun song.
Imagine a party with dresses and cake, and singing and dancing and cake.
And Katie says that she'll continue to pretend to like the rest of the plastics. Katie is also infatuated with the idea that she might win Aaron if she gets Regina out of the way. While singing this song in the movie, they're transported into a fantasy world, and throughout the course of the song, they make many attempts to sabotage Regina. Katie starts to give Regina these Caltine bars that are supposed to help you gain weight, but she lies to Regina and says it's going to help her lose weight. In the movies, we also see them give her foot cream and say it's face cream, and then in the new movie, they give her lard as her face cream, and it starts to make her break out. Also, when she's in gym class, they cut holes in her shirt, but it becomes a fashion trend.
Similarly, in the new movie, they spray her with a sprinkler during the homecoming pep rally, and this becomes a trend and she revives the wet look.
So everything they're doing seems to mostly be making Regina just look better and be more popular, but the Caltine bars are starting to make her gain weight. In the movie, they also include an extra verse that was included in the off-Broadway run of Mean Girls, but cut for the Broadway run, so they bring it back.
I'll bring the glow sticks.
I'll bring balloons and we'll have chocolate ice cream cones.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. I'll be the DJ spinning the tunes on a turntable made of her bones.
And then imagine we're sisters, cause sisters have fun. Playing dress up in Barbies and tags.
Sweetheart, when was the last party you were at?
And then we'll roll on the grass and stare up at the sun.
Then we'll stuff her remains in a bag
and throw them in the river.
Everyone in their school is still obsessed with Regina and watching her every move.
What's Regina doing? What's Regina wearing? Is she dating Aaron? What's Regina eating? Gotta look at her finger. Did her boobs get bigger? Regina.
Even the principal wants to know.
Is she back with Aaron?
So because they know Gretchen is very insecure with her relationship with Regina and she's close to cracking, they decide to put extra pressure on her to reveal Regina's secrets through Gretchen. Regina taunts Katie.
Katie, will you please tell him his hair looks sexy pushback?
Katie's finally ready to go along with the plan, and she decides to send herself a candy cane and say it's from Regina, and do this in front of Gretchen.
Who said that? Oh, it's from...
So Gretchen feels slighted and feels like she's not Regina's number one anymore. This leads Gretchen to spill all of Regina's secrets to Katie, ranging from her dyeing her hair to having plastic surgery to cheating on Aaron. In the musical, they are hooking up in the North Shore Lions costume.
She makes him wear the costume?
No! They're both in the costume!
And Katie sends a text to Aaron saying that Regina's cheating on him. In the new movie, Katie tells Aaron that Regina's cheating on him and she wanted to tell him because they're such great friends. They're just hooking up in the janitor's closet, and then Aaron walks in on them hooking up and later breaks up with Regina. At the end of Revenge Party, Katie thinks that Aaron's going to come running to her, but of course she doesn't realize that he's just had his heart broken and is going to need some time. But while Katie is working to sabotage Regina, she's also preparing for the talent show that they're doing, which is a tradition that the Plastics do, where they do the same song every year. In the movie, this is Jingle Bell Rock, but in the new adaptions, it is Rocking Around the Pole, which I actually had to search if that was a real Christmas song or not. I thought it was, if I'm being honest. And the talent show starts with Damien singing Beautiful by Christina Aguilera, and then later the iCarly theme song in French. And then Kevin G in The Power of Three performs, but in all performances he gets cut off by Principal Duval for being inappropriate. In the new movie, there's a cute shot in the audience where I believe you see Kevin G's mom like clapping along, which I think is really cute. This is the section of the adaptions where they start to diverge a bit because the Caltine Diet Bar storyline takes place after the talent show in the original movie. In the original movie, Regina's sabotaging hasn't really worked and she's still with Aaron. She's just annoyed with Gretchen, and she gets so annoyed with Gretchen that she tells her to switch with Katie last minute. Because of this change, Gretchen messes up the choreography and ends up breaking the radio. Katie saves the day by singing the song a cappella, and then the rest of the plastics follow along with her. And this is a great scene to show the shifting power dynamics in the plastics and how they're all following Katie's lead now instead of Regina's. Art at Midnight has a great video breaking down this scene in detail. And in the 2004 movie, after the performance, Regina again tells Gretchen that fetch isn't going to happen, and this causes her to break. But going back to the other adaptations, they're performing Rocking Around the Pole, which is an original song they wrote for the musical. While they're getting ready for their performance, Regina is going on a tirade against Karen and Gretchen after Aaron broke up with her. She's also stressed about the fact that she's gaining weight, and she's not going to be able to fit her costume well. And while they're putting on their costumes, Regina complains that she can see Karen's bra.
Karen, I can see your bra. It's on purpose. I'm going for a look. As a girl who slept with 11 people because you're nailing it. I think your top looks fetch. Gretchen, stop trying to make fetch happen. It's not gonna happen.
While they're performing Rocking Around the Pole, Regina's skirt falls off, and this moment goes viral. Also, the actress is wearing like butt padding at this point, and then she bends over after her skirt falls, and this moment goes viral on social media. Through Janice and Damien's narration, we learn that after Regina's skirt fell off, the rest of the plastics went into chaos, but Katie was the only one who continued the performance and kept acting normal.
OMG, Katie was the only one who kept dancing.
Katie looked cute. Those other three were busted.
That Katie girl's authentic, but not in a fake way.
Her Instagram is just pictures of lions and now selfies. Badass.
I posted a picture of me and Katie in our Santa outfits, and someone commented that we look like sisters, and I was like, #what? I like Katie. She's nice to me.
I'm not sure how I feel about the way this played out in the musical, because this is a big turning point in the plot, but them performing Rocking Around the Pole is only like a 10-second thing before Regina's skirt falls off. And we don't see the fallout, it happens off stage. And in the new movie, it plays out in a similar way, but a little bit different, because Gretchen is annoying Regina by asking her that they should rehearse the performance, because this is the first time doing it with Katie. Regina keeps declining that she doesn't need to rehearse because she's perfect every time. And Regina is frustrated because her costume isn't fitting as well, and then it's revealed that they've been wearing the same costume and doing the same performance since 6th grade. And similarly to the musical, Regina snaps at Karen. I find this line very odd in the movie because in an earlier scene, Gretchen is wearing a bra peeking out look, so it's not like something experimental. We already saw Gretchen wearing it. We're going to talk about the costuming a little bit later, but that was just something I noticed. So they start to do the performance of Rocking Around the Pole. It's very sexy. It's very acrobatic. They're doing all these different moves. We see a shot of Katie's mom in the audience looking a little horrified. And while the plastics are performing, Damien shouts off stage. And this is a reference to Ariana Grande's Thank You Next music video, where she recreates this scene and other coming-of-age early 2000s movies. In the music video, we also see her writing in a burn book, and Kris Jenner recreates the video camera meme and also merges it with Regina's mom's character. But when they go to do the big lift, they drop Regina and the whole school laughs at her. The performance and Regina's fail goes viral on social media, and it becomes big TikTok drama of people talking about Regina's performance, hating on Regina, talking about how Regina sucks. And there's a montage where we see Regina's fall from grace, everyone's starting to turn on her, calling her all these names. And Megan Thee Stallion is in the montage on TikTok saying, "We're going back to red, Y2K Firecrotch is back." And this is a reference to how Lindsay Lohan was bullied in her feud with Paris Hilton and Brandon Davis in 2006. And this comment would follow her and be used to insult her. After this movie came out, a representative of Lindsay Lohan said she was hurt and disappointed by this reference in the film. While writing it, they probably felt like it was reclaiming what happened to Lindsay Lohan, but it was a traumatic time for her, so I could also see why she would be offended by including that reference. After they do the Jingle Bell Rock performance, everyone loves it and it goes great. But when Regina tells Gretchen that fetch is not going to happen, she finally cracks and starts spilling Regina's secrets to Katie, that Regina's hooking up with Shane Oman in the projector room above the auditorium. So they try to plan to make Aaron walk into the projection room at the time that they would be hooking up, but all of their attempts fail. We also learn in this montage that one of the students is hooking up with the coach, and no one reports this. This does come back later. The little subplot of Coach Carr being a creep is removed from the new movie, but it's referenced a little bit in the musical, but it's implied that he's trying to prey on students, particularly Karen. And after this, Katie gets the idea to start giving Regina the Caltine bars. But despite the fact that Gretchen is struggling with her relationship with Regina, Katie witnesses how Gretchen is desperately trying to win Regina's approval. She says she knew it was better to be in the plastics hating life than to not be in them at all. And during this, Katie also becomes obsessed with wanting to take Regina down.
I spent about 80% of my time talking about Regina, and the other 20% of the time I was praying for someone else to bring her up so I could talk about her more.
But they honestly make Katie a lot more of a sympathetic character in the musical because she doesn't have this obsessive need to take down Regina as much. It seems like the driving force behind her wanting to take Regina down in the new adaptions is her wanting to win over Aaron. Katie learns that she's failing math and asks Aaron to help tutor her, and her and Aaron get cozy during the tutoring session and they kiss, but he pulls away and says he can't do that to Regina, again making Katie's character not super likable, kissing Aaron while he's still in a relationship with Regina, and Katie accidentally blurts out that Regina is cheating on him. I think the way this plays out in the new adaptions makes more sense because she sits on the information that Regina's cheating on Aaron when she could have been using it to her advantage. Getting him to walk in on them cheating seems convoluted. Someone else could have just told him. And I don't understand why, in the original movie, Katie has reservations about telling Aaron. But I like how Katie comes off a lot more manipulative in the original movie where she invites Aaron to a tutoring session and then kisses him knowing he's in a relationship with Regina, hoping that he would just pick her over Regina. Then we get the announcements for the Spring Fling Queen, and it is Regina, Gretchen, and Katie, and Damien put in Janice as a joke. Regina goes to try on her Spring Fling dress, but she doesn't fit the size 5 and she has a panic, and the store only carries sizes 1 through 5. And I hate how real this is. Miss Norbury pulls Katie aside to encourage her to do better in math. In the musical, this happens before the talent show, but I don't know if this change really matters. Miss Norbury wants to push Katie to do better. Katie goes on a rant to the plastics about how Miss Norbury is being so annoying, and Katie says she's so queer, which is copying Regina's mannerisms a little bit because we've seen her use gay as a pejorative. And Gretchen encourages Katie to vent in the burn book, and she writes that Miss Norbury is a sad old drug pusher. Katie has a conversation over the phone with Regina, and Regina says Gretchen isn't going to win Spring Fling Queen because she's not pretty, and people forget to vote for Karen because she's such a slut. But Katie has Gretchen on the other line, and then Karen also gets involved in the call, but then Gretchen tells Karen that Regina thinks she's a slut. And the plastics relationship begins to crumble, and Karen and Gretchen have had enough of Regina. So when Regina comes into the cafeteria and is wearing sweatpants when it's not a Friday, Regina can't sit with them.
You're wearing sweatpants. It's Monday. You can't sit with us!
And Regina flees the cafeteria in shame. So in the new adaptions, this plays out a little differently. Basically, the scene in the cafeteria happens immediately after the fallout of the Rocking Around the Pole performance. Everyone is worshiping Katie on social media, and Janice tells Katie that she doesn't have to sit with them anymore because they're even. But Katie says she wants to have one more lunch with the plastics. And when Regina comes in the cafeteria wearing sweatpants,
You can't sit with us.
but after Regina says, sweatpants are the only thing that fits me now, Gretchen has a moment of hesitation.
What do you think, Katie?
Sorry, Regina. Rules are rules.
In the musical and new movie, in this scene and going forward, we see Katie wearing a C necklace similar to Regina's R necklace, and Regina angrily storms out of the cafeteria. In the musical, after this happens, they have a song called Fearless where they celebrate their freedom from Regina, with some lyrics like, "And I don't know why, but with you I dance. in a storm in my best dress, Fearless. Okay, sorry, that was a bit of a stupid joke, but when I was Googling Fearless lyrics, of course, Taylor Swift's Fearless was the first thing that came up. But this did lead me to think about something interesting. So to all my Swifties and musical theater fans out there, I want to pose a question that I think about a lot when I'm bored. Is if you had to write a jukebox musical with Taylor Swift songs, what would the plot be about? So the lyrics are actually... In my opinion, this is one of the weakest songs in the musical and kind of a throwaway song, but it leads into a big dance number, and all of the students at North Shore are celebrating their freedom from Regina. They close out the song with Regina coming back to the cafeteria to grab her Caltine bars, and she sings a little reprise of Someone Gets Hurt.
You made these rules. It's fine for you. New hair, new skirt. It's fine. Till someone gets hurt. Till someone gets hurt.
And what Jeff Richmond would say about this Act 1 finale is, the Act 1 finale went through many revisions. The last and most significant was updating the lyrics to reflect Katie's journey once it evolved after the Out of Town. The old title was Justice, but the updated one, Fearless, centers the song on Katie. Regina's entrance at the end of the song was added in the last few weeks of the rehearsal in the theater. The previous ending didn't quite feel right. I actually dreamt that Regina came back in and reprised Someone Gets Hurt. We tried it the next day, and it was exactly what we've been searching for. Her entrance teased the upcoming revenge in Act 2 and reminded us what's at stake for our main characters. Plus, who wouldn't want to see Taylor belt again before the curtain goes down? I like the change of having Regina come in before the end of Act 1, because if she doesn't come in, I feel like all the problems have kind of been solved. Everything's tied up. Like, what's the reason to come back and draw you into Act 2? But I've heard that they actually cut this in the touring production, and this reprise that Regina sings in Fearless is gone now. In the movie, they also do a prolonged cut to black, symbolizing the end of Act 1.
And that
was the beginning
of the
mother end.
Because it's intermission, I thought I would do a little intermission and talk about the life of the Broadway musical and some of the cast changes, and ultimately the demise of the Broadway production. So going back to the beginning, the Broadway production of Mean Girls would start previews March 12th, 2018, and would officially open April 12th, 2018. On April 5th, Erica Henningsen would become a Broadway.com vlogger. So if you want to learn more about the actors and the behind the scenes of the musical, you can watch all her vlogs on Broadway.com's YouTube channel or website. And in May, the Tony nominations would be announced, and Mean Girls and SpongeBob the Musical would lead in nominations. I guess it was a rough year. But at the 72nd Annual Tony Awards, the band's visit would sweep, and Mean Girls would not go home with a single award. They did do a performance of a medley of Meet the Plastics and Where Do You Belong? And another prominent theater award show, the Drama Desk Awards. They would also be nominated for many awards. They would win one award, Outstanding Book of a Musical, for Tina Fey's book.
I share this award only completely with our incredible cast, our 6 female principals who have brought so much to making these roles their own.
Despite not winning any Tony Awards in June, in July they would continue breaking records for their theater's box office, having the highest grossing of any musical at that theater. And they would break this record multiple times. Eventually, in the future, it would be broken by Lea Michele in Funny Girl. And Mean Girls had great sales, and they would often perform to 100% capacity. The first major cast change would come March of 2019, where Christina Albato would come to replace Ashley Park in the role of Gretchen. She's amazing in this role, and while I was researching her, I found out that she did a workshop for Devil Wears Prada, the musical, which apparently they're making, and Elton John is composing the music. And Jennifer Simard would join the cast as the adult woman. And a major shakeup to the Broadway production on May 28, 2019, Renee Rapp would be announced to do a limited run in Mean Girls and then officially take over the role of Regina George in September. In 2018, Renee would become a Jimmy Award winner. The Jimmy Awards are a national high school musical theater award given to celebrate theater students throughout the country.
And all the king's horses and all the king's men will never put poor Charlie together again. And what you gonna do when it all falls down?
She would win alongside Andrew Barth Feldman, and he would also make his Broadway debut in Dear Evan Hansen in 2019. So this was a big deal for both of them to go from Jimmy Award winners to immediately going into Broadway productions. And not just small roles, they were Regina George and Evan Hansen. There was a lot of good press surrounding Renee's announcement for Mean Girls, and everyone was very happy for her. I remember seeing this at the time, that it was pretty widely celebrated that someone so young was going to be on Broadway, who was only 19 at the time, and she was playing a teenager, being a teenager. But despite the praise and recognition she was receiving, in the future, Renee would reflect on this time, saying it was pretty hard on her mental health and body image. She talked about this quite a bit on the Call Her Daddy podcast, but Renee would give a very vulnerable interview on this podcast, and she would talk about her anxiety around the job, and she would talk about the harmful messages she would receive from audience members saying that her body ruined the show for them. And she would also tell a difficult story about her time in the show after she took over the role officially in September 2019. They would later make changes to her costume. I think people get confused about what she's really talking about in this story, because I saw a lot of comments be like, I don't understand what she's talking about. Did they cover up her costume or make it more revealing? But basically, she explains that someone who was working in the production's creative team went behind her back and had them change her costumes without asking her first if she was okay with it. And she says this wasn't Tina Fey or Lauren Michaels, but she had to go to a costume fitting and get new costumes, but she wasn't aware that she was going to get new costumes. And they basically changed the looks that Regina had. For example, in her introductory scene, she'd be wearing white skinny jeans, but they would change Renee's costume to being a white skater skirt. This might not seem like a big deal, but the white skinny jeans is Regina George's costume. In all of the Broadway production, Taylor Louderman and her understudies all wore white skinny jeans. Her costume being changed without her knowledge was really hurtful to her, because she felt like they were saying that someone with her body type couldn't wear the costumes that everyone else was wearing. And she says everyone around her was just trying to assure her that the new costumes were to highlight her curves and they didn't have any ill intent behind them, but it really increased her anxiety and issues with her body image. And Renee's body would become a subject of interviews, and she would often be asked questions about what it's like to be a Regina George that isn't 115, like a line in the musical suggests. This is where the line, "I never weigh more than 115, became quite controversial. I've gone back and forth quite a bit on whether I feel this line is inherently toxic, and I do give the creative team the benefit of the doubt that Regina's character is vain and body image obsessed, and she talks about her weight constantly throughout the show. But I do think that making this line was a mistake, because if this was just a movie and she says this line, I don't think it's a problem. This is a theater show where multiple girls are going to be playing Regina George, and they hope to turn this show into a high school production. And the amount of negativity and scrutiny they're putting on the body of the girl who plays Regina George in any production of this show, I just don't think is fair. In an interview, Taylor Louderman, the original Regina George on Broadway, would say, "When I got the part, there was all this pressure to suddenly be that weight. Tina Fey was like, "You don't have to be 115. I got the part looking the way I do, so I just need to relax." It's hard to do that, though. And if Taylor Louderman's feeling this way, who's a very thin woman, I can only imagine how every girl who plays Regina George would feel this way. And Renee would continue as Regina George until the closing of the show in 2020. In January of 2020, Cameron Dallas, social media star, would become a temporary replacement for Aaron Samuels, and he would play from January 14th to February 9th of 2020. In January of 2020, Mean Girls would announce that they have recouped their initial investment and are officially a profitable musical. In this month, Tina Fey would also announce that she's turning Mean Girls the musical back into a movie, saying it's been incredibly gratifying to see how much the movie and the musical have meant to audiences. I've spent 16 years with these characters now. They are my Marvel Universe, and I love them dearly. After Cameron Dallas's temporary replacement, Kyle Seelig would come back to the Broadway production of Mean Girls as Aaron Samuels, and then a couple days later, on February 11th, Sabrina Carpenter, famous Disney Channel star and pop singer, would be announced to take over the role of Katie in a limited run from March 10th to June 7th. Unfortunately, we know what happens spring 2020, and this does not go as planned. After Sabrina's announcement, there was some pushback from fans, being mad about stunt casting, as always. Sabrina would say about playing Katie Heron in Mean Girls the Musical, "This has been a dream of mine since I stepped foot on stage. I didn't know that I'd get so lucky for my Broadway debut to be in a show I'm such a fan of." Erica Henningsen would play her final performance February 22nd, 2020, and the rest of the main cast members, Gray Henson, Barrett Wilbert-Weed, and Kate Rockwell, would give their final performance March 8th of 2020, with the new cast to come in March 10th. This would include Chad Burris, who would play Damien, who had previously been in Frozen the Musical as Olaf. Olivia Kaufman would take over the role of Janice. She was previously the understudy and standby of Katie and Janice, but she was coming into a principal role. And Lauren Leigh Turner would be the new Karen, while Sabrina Carpenter would be Katie. So the new cast would all perform March 10th, and honestly, it's a crime that we don't have video evidence of Renee Rapp and Sabrina Carpenter performing together. Not that I'm advocating for bootlegs, but the following day, Broadway would be shut down because of COVID, and Mean Girls would unknowingly play their final performance, which is just such a bummer for the new cast coming in, and of course for everyone on Broadway losing their jobs. So throughout 2020, Mean Girls was active on social media and seemingly going to reopen after the pandemic. They would also do a book club during lockdown, spotlighting some female authors. They would read The Hate U Give, Such a Fun Age, and You Should See Me in a Crown. In October 2020, they would announce that the show would remain closed until May, and then finally, in January of 2021, Mean Girls on Broadway would close. The Mean Girls team would release a statement saying, "Mean Girls played 833 performances at the August Wilson Theater, and we've loved each and every one of them. Irregardless, the time has come for us to say goodbye to Broadway, as we will not be reopening upon its return. As Karen Smith once said, everything is really two things. Yes, this news makes us want to cry into our cheese fries, but this is only the beginning for Mean Girls the Musical. And we have so much to look forward to. We'll see you on our national tour, which resumes performances this summer, and the upcoming film adaptation from Paramount Pictures. In the meantime, we'll continue to share content and updates here. Regina George would tell us to not care what anyone else thinks, but it has been thrilling for us to watch audiences like you enjoy the show. Thank you so much for helping us make Fetch happen. The limit to our gratitude does not exist." On September 30th of 2022, a Mean Girls high school edition would be released. Tina Fey would say, "I've been looking forward to a high school production of Mean Girls from the day we opened on Broadway. As a former drama club member, I knew the show, with 5 female leads, would be great news for most schools. As a former youth theater director, I hope that letting students play characters their own age with a story they can relate to would be fun and lead to some great conversations. I can see so many girls being excited to play Gretchen or Regina or Katie in Mean Girls in their high school. Actually went down a little bit of a rabbit hole watching the high school performances of the show. just seeing what different high school productions are like. And honestly, so many people are so talented. At my high school, all the musicals we did were like Bye Bye Birdie and Damn Yankees and stuff. So I think it's really exciting that people are doing contemporary cool musicals now. Well, it probably depends on the theater department. I'm sure some teachers are pretty adamant about doing Bye Bye Birdie for the 10th time. In the high school edition of Mean Girls, Tina Fey would also say, on Broadway and our national tour productions, we made diversity and inclusivity a priority. We expect you to do the same. We understand that every school is different, and given the demographics of your community, not every role will be cast the same way as the Broadway production. We're not asking you to recreate the Broadway version of the show. Rather, we want you to create the best version for your school while embracing an inclusive and diverse approach to casting. Also, I found a list of approved changes that they made to the show. You know, because the show's kind of raunchy, they made some edits. I guess the Broadway script is what they provided schools with, and then they have suggested changes to the dialogue. Apparently, this is pretty strict, and you can't really change too much stuff when you license a show for a high school production. I don't know too much about this, but I Never Weigh More Than 115 would be suggested as all the filters you use look just like me, and often bitch would be changed to witch or monster. Also, all of the uses for the homophobic slur would suggest space les as an alternate. Honestly, I think it's crazy to imagine high schoolers just saying the slurs straight up. I mean, I don't know. I would be shocked if I saw that at a high school production. And a second national tour would begin September 26th of 2023, and Mean Girls is scheduled to open June 2024 at the West End in London. And I am interested to see how that production goes, because over the course of Mean Girls, they've been very indecisive about the script and songs and lyrics, and they've made quite a few changes. In the national tour, they made quite a few more changes to the show, and I'm interested to see how many changes carry over to the West End production. Despite the Broadway musical closing, it would still live on. Honestly, it had a very unfortunate end, and it's a bummer that the new cast members only got to play like 1 or 2 shows before the show was shut down. That's the end of my intermission. Hopefully this didn't go on too long, but I found out a lot of random interesting stuff while doing research for this video, and I thought it'd be fun to share. Mean Girls Act 2 starts with Damien and Janice singing a little reprise of A Cautionary Tale.
This is the insane part where it all flies off the rails. Exciting! Enjoy the cautionary tale.
Principal Duval announces the Spring Fling nominees: Regina, Katie, Karen, and Gretchen. And they take out Janice being a nominee. This scene also happens in the new movie, and Janice's girlfriend gives her a food. And this is interesting because both Damien and Janice are having like queer relationships, but they're very much in the background of the movie. There's not a single line of dialogue to acknowledge that Janice potentially has a girlfriend. Katie is addicted to her newfound popularity on social media. In the new movie, she's also using e.l.f. products. I don't know why. I love e.l.f. e.l.f. is one of my favorite makeup brands. But it's not like a high-end makeup brand that cool girls at your school who value wealth and status would be using. They also do a lot of ads for the Samsung Flip in the new movie. It's kind of working. I kind of want a Samsung Flip now. Like, is it finally time for me to ditch the iPhone and get that goofy thing? And because of Katie's new popularity, she's not listening to Janice and Damien when they're talking to her. Damien sings the song Stop on Broadway, which is a very Broadway song. Stopping yourself when you're about to make a big mistake, surrounded by all aspects of life.
Stop posting comments on YouTube as 4 different people that heard you lovely was pitchy. Stop!
Or sending nude pictures when you're underaged.
Now I only get naked with people in person. Also, someone should just teach boys to not do that in the first place. Stop, because I'm actually a human being and not a prop.
or just doing stupid stuff like getting a tattoo with a Chinese symbol that has a typo in it.
Should I get a tattoo of the Chinese word for wisdom? Stop. Check the spelling and stop. It means bucket.
But Damien's trying to say that Katie needs to stop because she's been obsessively trying to get Aaron's attention. I see why they cut this song for the movie, because it's a very Broadway song. I don't know if it would really fit with the more pop music that they're going for in the movie. The co-directors for the Mean Girls 2024 movie would say, there were so many shed tears for Stop. That was the last one to go and it was really hard. I really wanted a crack at that. We love Stop. It's a classic Broadway song and it played so well on stage, but it wasn't advancing the story. In cinema, you don't have 3 hours. It has to be tight. It has to keep moving. In the pre-Broadway tryouts, they would have a song called Bossed Up, which would be more of an ensemble rock number about Katie reveling in her newfound power.
I used to think being plastic really blows, but now Gretchen keeps my schedule and Karen picks my clothes.
Both follow her no matter where she goes.
Cause you gotta have an alpha, and that's me, I suppose.
Katie tells Janice she can't go to her art show because she's going out of town with her parents. But when talking to Karen and Gretchen about what she's doing on the weekend and how her parents are going to be out of town, Gretchen suggests that maybe she should have a get-together and invite Aaron over. So Katie lies to her parents, or just her mom in the new movie, and says that she's going to Janice's art show and she doesn't want to break a commitment to her friend and she wants to be a good friend, so her parents let her stay home alone. Katie remembers that Janice's art show is that weekend, and she's using that to get out of going on the trip, even though she has no intention on going to Janice's art show, and she just wants to throw a party and see Aaron. And while Katie is inviting Aaron, she goes full Regina and starts using her slang.
No, it's just gonna be a few cool people, and you better be one of them, biatch. Shut up. I love that shirt on you.
So, you better send me one, biatch. Love ya.
I don't feel like this is something that new 2024 Renee Rapp Regina would say, is biatch. Does she say this in the movie? I'll have to check when I'm editing, but I don't think she ever says biatch in the movie. In the newer adaptions, Janice has the phrase of saying,
That is tits.
She means that's great.
and then later Katie says that's tits.
I have a 60. Yeah, I think I need extra help.
Well, I could tutor you if you want.
Thanks, that'd be tits.
It shows Katie's influenced by both Janice and Regina. Katie also begins to get annoyed with Gretchen and snap at her the same way that Regina used to. This leads Gretchen to sing a What's Wrong With Me reprise, where she feels like Katie also doesn't understand her value and what's wrong with her. This also is shared with Regina's mom, where she sings about having difficulty with her relationship with her daughter.
And if there's anything I can do for you in the coming days, like clothes shopping or like put some tanner on your back, or like make a sexy but subtle playlist. Gretchen, I get it. What's wrong with me? Different rules, same old song. I try so hard.
In this scene, Regina's working out on the treadmill and eating the Caltine bars when her mom tells her that the Caltine bars are supposed to help you gain weight, not lose it. So Katie throws the party and anxiously awaits Aaron's arrival, of course, because it's a teen movie. She wants to have a small get-together, but it becomes a huge rager, and Katie's pressured to drink by Karen and Gretchen, but she goes along with it pretty easily. In the musical, they sing the song Whose House Is This? And I feel like it's a parody of 10 Dual Commandments from Hamilton, just by the way it sounds, unless that's just how Broadway rap sounds.
Here about a party, here's the procedure. Text all your friends from the way that means you, so you don't know nobody. That's not what counts. It's somebody's house and they got no counter.
This song is led by Kevin, and he actually gets a lot more singing in the second act compared to the first one, because he has 2 songs that he's pretty prominently featured in. Both of them are cut for the new movie, though. Katie is anxiously waiting for Aaron, wondering why he's not showing up, and then she finds him in her bedroom looking at her old pictures of when she was living in Kenya and with animals. Is this cute or creepy? Let me know what you think. So Katie is a bit drunk, but she knows this is finally her chance to talk to Aaron. When Aaron compliments her, in the new adaptions, he says nice costume instead of like nice outfit.
I like the costume. I mean,
which like a little like, ooh, she's being fake. Aaron sees through her facade, but then she drunkenly lets it slip that she's been failing math on purpose to talk to him.
You're failing on purpose? That's stupid.
You know, I just wanted a reason to talk to you.
In the musical, they sing a song, More is Better. Like I said, they really expand upon Aaron's character in the musical. So they have him ask all these questions about Kenya. We learn that he's been doing a little bit of research to try to have a conversation with her about Kenya and the language and the culture. And he seems genuinely interested in what Katie's life was like before she moved there. I saw in an interview Tina Fey saying that when they were interviewing people who moved from Kenya to America, the main thing that they noticed was the air conditioning. So then this line made it into the song.
It's always cold 'cause the air conditioned air. Though in fairness, that could be how I dress now. Whatever. I look cuter. It worked, like pretending I needed a tutor.
But when she tries to explain, she calls him Regina's property.
So why don't you just talk to me?
Because of Regina. Because you were her property.
Her property?
No, shut up, not property.
Don't tell me to shut up.
And it just gets worse and worse, and then he says, you're like a clone of Regina. In the original movie, Regina shows up, and then Katie throws up on Aaron. This is cut for the later ones, because it honestly doesn't impact the plot at all. And then they go back into song, kind of fighting through song, and Katie is feeling like she is better than Regina ever was. She's a better version of herself.
What girl would you prefer?
I would prefer the girl you were, not who you're trying to be.
So I've been withholding a little bit of a secret about the cast. Erica Henningsen and Kyle Seelig, Katie and Aaron in the Broadway adaptation of Mean Girls would meet in 2016 and start dating after the DC production, and then they would get married in 2023. About their relationship, Erica would say, "We did an out-of-town tryout for the show in Washington, D.C. and started dating in the months between the end of that production and the start of the rehearsals for the Broadway transfer. We basically gave ourselves a month to make sure it was certain that we wanted to commit to working together at the same time as dating one another. Luckily, that month pretty much solidified that for us it was worth the risk." So I just thought that was very cute because I love a showmance, and I am so curious what it would be like to break up and make up and kiss and then see someone else kiss your partner every night on stage. And I feel like their chemistry is real because it's real. And because Regina shows up in the original movie while she's outside the party, she's talking to Shane Oman, and he tells her that the Caltine bars are what they use when they need to gain weight for training. And this is the final straw for Regina. At the same time, while Katie is running after Aaron, she accidentally runs into Janice and Damien, who know that she threw a party instead of going to Janice's art show. And Janice is having a bit of, understandably, anger and jealousy about Katie and her relationship with the plastics, and she calls Katie fake. But Katie snaps back and says,
You know what? It's not my fault you're like in love with me or something. What?
Oh no, she did not.
And then Janice in the original movie really goes off on Katie.
You think that everybody is in love with you when actually everybody hates you.
And what's worse is the art piece that won a prize is a picture of the three of them together. In the new adaptions, this is a Someone Gets Hurt reprise for Janice.
At least she has the guts to not pretend to be my friend.
No, it's fine.
And I want my pink shirt.
In the newer adaptions, it seems like Janice is more focused on her personal hurt with her relationship with Katie. But in the original movie, she's more talking about Katie turning into the mean girl and the queen bee like Regina was. Because I don't see Katie as much of a bully as she was in the original movie. Because Regina has learned the truth about the Caltine bars, this is the last straw, and Regina doesn't just want revenge on Katie, she wants to watch the world burn. She runs home to write in her burn book, venting out frustration about Katie, saying horrible things about her. But once she cuts the picture of her and Katie together and flips it over, what she's gluing in the burn book is not actually the picture of Katie, it's the picture of herself. And I audibly gasped the first time I saw this. This is an amazing plot twist. And it just shows how cunning Regina is. She photocopies the burn book and pastes it all over the school. And in the musical, she sings the song World Burn. While the classmates are fighting over all the derogatory statements that are made in the burn book. In the new movie, Regina doesn't bother to photocopy them and like paste them everywhere. She just throws the burn book in the school hallway, and then it spreads, via texting and social media to the whole school. And I'm fine with this change. I do love in the musical when they do the photocopying and the whole stage is black, she's wearing black, and then it has the lines. I feel like that was great, like lighting design. This is one of the most famous scenes in the movie where the entire school turns into chaos and the girls are fighting each other like animals would fight in the animal kingdom. And Miss Norbury sees what was written about her in the burn book about how she's pushing drugs to students. In the burn book, it's also revealed that Coach Carr is having a relationship with the students, and two of the girls are fighting over him, it seems, and this leads him to be suspended. Like I said, this plot about him being a predator is taken out of the later movie. It's kind of in the musical more implied. It's not specifically talked about in the burn book. In the musical also, if you remember way back, I talked about how Aaron lives out of the school district, but his mom lies about their address. That was also in the burn book, so Aaron gets expelled from school. And Janice and Damien see the two gate of function, which was something that Janice told Katie, so they know that Katie was partly responsible for writing the burn book. And Katie, Gretchen, and Karen are the only girls in the school who aren't in it. So all of the junior girls are forced to go to the gymnasium for some group therapy. Katie feels like she's back at the first day of school because she doesn't know where to sit, and she's staring at all the seats while everyone just stares back at her and doesn't want them to sit with her. So Principal Duval takes the lead and wants these students to talk about their issues.
Somebody wrote in that book that I'm lying about being a virgin because I use super jumbo tampons, but I can't help it if I've got a heavy flow and a wide set vagina.
This was one of the main lines in the movie that they wanted them to cut for the MPAA rating, for I think PG-13 rating, and they really wanted them to cut this line, and Tina Fey wrote an impassioned letter to the board explaining why she thought that the cut was sexist, and they were allowed to keep it in the movie and keep the PG-13 rating. And after hearing this story from the student, Principal Duval realizes he's out of his depth and asks Miss Norbury if she can lead the exercise for the students. In the new movie, we learn that they're a couple and they're together now, which is funny because in the original movie they kind of had a flirtationship, but now they're married and it's cute.
Thank you. I love you.
This is a workshop that Rosalind Wiseman would do at schools. In an excerpt of the book, she talks about it. She says, I start class by asking the girls to close their eyes and answer by a show of hands how many of them have had a friend gossip about them, talk behind their back, force them to stop being friends with someone, or be exclusive. All hands immediately shoot up. I ask the girls to keep their hands up and open their eyes. They laugh. Then I have them close their eyes again and ask them, answer by a show of hands, how many of them have gossiped, backstabbed, or been exclusive about a friend. Much more slowly, some bending from the elbow instead of extending their hand, all hands go up. I tell them to keep their hands up and open their eyes. They look around. They laugh again, but nervously. After 5 minutes or so, Almost without exception, the following occurs. A girl, usually generically pretty, and surrounded by 4 or 5 girls, will raise her hand and say, "Miss Wiseman, maybe this happens at other schools you work at, but at this school, we don't have exclusive cliques like that. It's not like we're all best friends, but we all have our groups and people are fine with it. People just can't be best friends with everyone." As she's speaking, the other girls react in various ways. Some stare at the floor, others have disbelief all over their faces, and some roll their eyes. It can be difficult for me not to outright challenge this girl, but no one speaks up or disputes her declaration. Almost always, 3 things will be true about this girl. First, she'll always be one of the meanest, most exclusive girls in the room. Second, she honestly believes what she's saying. And third, her parents will be in total denial about how mean she is and completely back her up. This plays out in all of the adaptions, where they do the exercise and Regina stands up to say that she doesn't think that the school has a clique problem. And she has the cliques talk out their problems and then has the girls go up and apologize and do trust falls. But when Janice goes up to do her apology...
Oh my god, it's her dream come true, diving into a big pile of girls.
And rather than doing an apology, Janice exposes everything that her and Katie have been doing to Regina, and then reclaims the
"I've got a big lesbian crush on you. Suck on that!"
She sings a song, "I'd Rather Be Me," where she declares that she's over all the drama and she just wants to be herself, and she doesn't like how women are expected to act in society. This song is kind of a banger, and Auli'i and Barrett both kill it.
So your best friend screwed you over, acted nice when she not nice. Well, I have some advice, because it's happened to me twice.
But the lyrics are a little bit, I don't know. I feel like they could be better. Such as,
I won't twist and notch to join your game. I will say you make me mad, and if you treat me bad, I'll say you're bad.
Like, rhyming mad with bad? I don't know. And I know you want to be like, oh, they're in high school. It's not supposed to be sophisticated lyrics. But I was like, what are these lyrics? But later in the song, she does spit some feminist facts saying,
All you ladies are like nurturing and care. It's not really fair, boys. It's a fight. You have to share.
She's just telling the whole school to do their own thing and not worry about society or clique expectations. Regina storms out of the gym while the other students are embracing Janice's message and agreeing with her. In the new movie, they do this whole thing where Janice is like running through the entire school while singing the song, which I thought was kind of odd. I felt like maybe they just didn't know what to do with her while she sung this song, but she like goes into the different classrooms and goes in the lunchroom and like stands on tables and stuff to sing it. But at the end of the song, we see the same thing happen in the movie where she storms out of the gym and Regina and Katie are fighting, and then we don't even really hear in the new adaptation what Regina and Katie are saying to each other because this is in the background of Janice singing the end of I'd Rather Be Me. But regardless, she gets hit by the bus and students start to spread rumors about if Katie pushed her in front of the bus, and some people say that they saw that happen. After Regina gets hit by the bus, Katie goes back to being a nobody at school and goes back to eating lunch in the bathroom. And she's reflecting on her actions. And because Miss Norbury had the drug pusher allegations in the burn book and the Coach Carr allegations were true, they're investigating Miss Norbury as well. And Katie finally confesses to writing the burn book. When Katie confesses to writing the burn book in the musical, she sings a reprise of Fearless that is not available on the cast recording. This song actually kind of makes me like Fearless. I think it's a lot better than the original Fearless. It's an emotional reprise of a fun ensemble song. She realizes how many of her actions have hurt people and that there are consequences to her actions.
Fearless is not a
In the new adaptations, although Katie is isolated from everyone, Karen comes to comfort her, which I think is very sweet because we don't really see too much of Karen and Katie's friendship in the original movie, but it seems like Karen really likes Katie and likes her as a friend in the new ones.
The rule of twos is how everything is really two things. Like how you were tricking us, but also still had fun with us.
And her mom in the new movie, her dad in the original movie, comfort her after everything has happened. Katie mentions that maybe she should be homeschooled again, but her mom disagrees and feels like she just needs to go back to school. And because Katie is failing math, Miss Norbury lets her know that a way she could make up some extra credit is by joining the Mathlete State Championship, which is conveniently the same night as the Spring Fling Dance. During this song in the new movie, the band that's setting up for the Spring Fling Dance is singing a Stupid with Love reprise, which seems kind of random, but in the Broadway musical, they sing this song, Do This Thing. In this scene in the musical, because Aaron has been expelled from school, he goes to the state championship to help out, I guess.
Why are you doing this to me? Because I'm a pusher.
And I know if you can be your authentic self in front of Aaron, you'll be able to do it for the rest of your life.
This is just a convenient way to get them together again.
The Mean Girls movie would feature a surprise cameo from Lindsay Lohan as the math competition moderator. Previously, at the end of 2023, Amanda Seyfried, Lacey Chabert, and Lindsay Lohan reunited for a Walmart commercial that was heavily inspired by Mean Girls, where they reprised their characters. There was a little bit of drama about this because Rachel McAdams declined the offer for the Walmart commercial, but it seems like she didn't fully know that the other girls were going to be involved. But also, it's just a commercial. But Rachel McAdams has been supportive of Renee Rapp. Rachel would say about her, "She is amazing. She's already got me beat with that voice. I'm just excited to see her incarnation. It's such a fun, great character. It's so much fun to play. I hope she has a great time with it. I can't wait to see it." And then in January of 2024, Renee Rapp would be a musical guest on SNL, and for her performance of Not My Fault, which is a song that Renee Rapp and Megan Thee Stallion wrote for Mean Girls, the movie that would play in the closing credits. This song is my favorite on the new Mean Girls soundtrack. Like, a gay Regina George could be so interesting. Lindsay Lohan, Daniel Franzese, and Rajiv Surendra all attended the premiere for the new movie. In an interview, Auli'i Cravalho also revealed that she received a bouquet and heartfelt note from Lizzie Kaplan and Barrett Wilbert-Weed, and she said they were like, "Congratulations on being the third generation of Janice, and we'll meet up with each other and have a drink, and we'll plot like the next best revenge. It was just the most incredible thing." And Avantika would also post a picture of her and Amanda Seyfried together on Instagram. So it's been very sweet to see that the original cast has been supportive of the new cast. So they end the competition in a tie, and the two girls from both teams are picked to do the final problem. And the girl on the other team says, "You're going down, slut." And Katie is judging the girl's appearance as well. In the original movie, they say slut 11 times and like whore 5 times and bitch 10 times. Bitch, I guess, is in the musical more. I've seen many comments that the new Mean Girls is too sanitized and it's not mean enough. And interestingly, I noticed that in the original movie, they call people sluts a lot. This is the first time that slut's used as an insult in the new movie. The only other time they mentioned was at the Halloween party when they said, "If you don't dress slutty, that's slut shaming us." And although I will say overall probably the girls are a little bit nicer to each other, I just don't think calling girls sluts and stuff is as impactful as it was probably in 2004 as an insult, just because of slut shaming as a movement and stuff like that. I did notice though in the montages when they're on social media, they're calling them sluts. It's just not in the dialogue as much.
Why did you waste energy insulting me? Why did I waste time judging your hair? This is not a competition.
It kinda is, though!
new movie, she sings a bit of a what if reprise to get to the limit does not exist. In the what if song, she talks about how our limit does not exist.
My limit doesn't exist.
So it makes sense, I guess, in that aspect, maybe.
The limit, it doesn't exist.
The limit does not exist.
This is a random plotline from the Broadway musical, but Katie is banned from going to the Spring Fling dance for writing the burn book, and Aaron is also banned because he was expelled. So together they make this plan, and Aaron kisses Katie, and then he pretends to be drunk to get kicked out of the dance and cause a diversion so Katie can sneak in and apologize to Janice. After getting into the dance, Katie goes into the bathroom and she runs into Regina there, where Regina and Katie have a bit of a heart-to-heart. This scene was actually cut from the original movie, but it's in the deleted scenes, and very similarly, this scene is recreated for the Broadway musical and then the new movie. Regina acknowledges that she has to change and be a better person. Although I appreciate Regina having a bit of a redemption, I'm not sure her saying that, because she's kind of giving a bit of a, if I was a man, then people wouldn't call me a bitch. I don't think this really applies because Regina's an awful person, and I don't think people don't like her because of sexism. From the original movie, we see how much people fawn over the Regina George character, and everyone wants to see her as a girl boss. Regina and Katie apologize to each other and make up, but Regina's also a little bit high on painkillers, so maybe we don't know.
Don't apologize for things that aren't your fault. And never apologize for being a boss. If you're gonna be happy in life, Katie, you need to not care what people say about you. Like, truly not care. That's what I keep trying to explain to the president on Twitter, but he blocked me. So I'm actually nominated?
Or it's the Russians.
It turns out that Katie was actually the winner of Spring Fling Queen. She goes up there to accept it, but feels like she doesn't deserve it after everything that's gone down that school year. She genuinely compliments everyone that she sees and mentions how beautiful everyone looks tonight, and then she breaks apart the crown and gives pieces to the different Spring Fling Queen nominees. In the musical, she sings a song, I See Stars, and this is an empowering song where everyone is a star and they don't have to be cheap and fake like plastic, and they need to appreciate and acknowledge their individuality and beauty.
You are so real, you are so rare. I see you there, I see you.
Everyone's dancing together at the Spring Fling dance, and then in the musical, Aaron is wearing the North Shore High Lions costume, and then he's able to dance with Katie, you know, because he's banned from the dance because of the transfer thing and whatever. And this song is where the musical ends. In the original movie, we have a bit of an epilogue that talks about what happens to the Plastics after they disbanded. It seems like Karen and Katie are still hanging out a bit. Gretchen becomes a member of the Asian clique, and Regina becomes a lacrosse girl and learns to take her anger out on the field rather than verbally. Kevin and Janice are dating now. Vom. And Katie says that despite all of the drama, she just wants to float. And in the new movie, Janice and Damien come back to narrate the end.
Calling someone stupid won't make you any smarter.
And even the people you don't like at all are still people. So get on their dicks!
In the new movie, during the credits, we see all of the classmates just having fun and letting go during the Spring Fling dance, and the cliques are intermingling and they're all having a great time. We even see a brief shot of Janice and Regina together, because that's always something that kind of bothered me, is Regina never apologizes to Janice. Not that she needs to, but if we want to give her the redemption, she kind of does need to. And the credits of the new movie is Not My Fault by Renee Rapp and Megan Thee Stallion.
You're like in love with me.
And that is Mean Girls, the movie, the musical, the movie musical. I want to discuss the costuming also because it has become a very important part of the Mean Girls movie and identity. Even watching the 2004 movie now, I feel like the costumes are timeless, and what really stood out about the plastics isn't necessarily the clothes they're wearing, it's just how put together they look. They look much more put together than a normal high school student, and that's part of their appeal. They're wearing jewelry, lots of accessories, they're wearing heels to school, and they just have this aura that makes them seem higher status than everyone else at the school. So the 3 costume designers are Mary J. Fort for the original movie, Greg Barnes for the Broadway musical, and Tom Broecker for the 2024 movie. So Katie is seen for the first half of the movie mainly wearing jeans and simple t-shirts, often plaid. They would really embrace the plaid for the newer adaptions, and plaid flannel shirts become one of Katie's staples, and she often wears sneakers. We see that Janice and Damien are the outcasts, and they dress differently from the rest of the students at the school. Janice wears a lot of dark colors, heavy makeup, ripped up stuff. In the musical, we see that she paints on her jackets. In the new movie, we also see she paints and embroiders her jackets because embroidery is a part of her art of choice. And in the 2024 movie, Janice does a lot of more experimental makeup with bright colors and different eye shapes, not like just because in the original movie she was just doing a heavy black liner. And the plastics, like I said, are very put together. They're wearing simple but elegant clothing. They almost exclusively wear miniskirts. Almost every scene we see them in, they're wearing miniskirts and heels. And they pair it with a tank top or a tight sweater. And this contrasts Katie's sense of style, where she's mainly wearing jeans. And for the Broadway musical, most of the elements of the plastics fashion sense with the miniskirts and heels is transferred over. They do wear sneakers too occasionally, and I would say Karen and Gretchen's outfits are a lot more playful, and they have a lot of like fun patterns and cute bags shaped like things, which could seem over the top, but I think it works great for the stage. And while Karen and Gretchen are wearing lots of playful colors and things, Regina's outfits are more simple. Like when we first see her introduced in the musical, she's wearing this weird all white look with like a white top and white skinny jeans. This outfit to me feels very like 2012. This is really the only outfit in the musical I don't really like. I think maybe it works to draw attention to Regina on stage, but I feel like it's not fashionable. It's not giving me like fashion. I don't like the outfit she wears later in I think the second costume change for Regina into the Wednesday outfit when they're wearing pink. Like, I think that outfit works great, and they all look great in that scene. I think it's important also to remember with the Broadway musical, because they need to plan around the actors changing costumes. For the quick changes, they can't have unlimited costuming. So some of the characters, particularly Katie, I would say, don't have that many costume changes. Like, they'll go from her wearing an outfit to she's wearing it without a jacket. But of course, they all have to change costumes for the Halloween party and the Christmas talent show and Spring Fling, things like that. About halfway through the movie, Katie has a makeover. The plastics are fawning over Katie, and after that scene, we see that she starts to wear clothing more similar to the other plastics, like the mini skirts also. And after that, we also see Katie start to wear a C necklace similar to the R necklace that Regina wears. That's kind of her signature item. I think this is interesting because in the original movie, it's kind of implied that they bought the necklaces together, or Regina bought the necklace for Katie. But because they don't have this kind of makeover montage type thing in the newer adaptions. And the first time we see Katie wear the sea necklace is at the lunch table when she's saying that Regina can't sit with them. So it kind of has a different connotation because they're never wearing the necklaces and being plastics at the same time. Katie takes over Regina's place immediately, while in the original movie, they both are in the plastics and both beloved by the school at the same time before Regina's fall from grace. This is kind of the main change because Regina's fall from grace happens a lot later in the original movie than in the musical, because in the musical it happens about halfway at the end of Act 1. So for the rest of the movie, Katie ditches her jeans and t-shirts look and opts for the more plastic-like look. So I'm a little unsure about how I feel about the costumes for the new movie. I know there was initially a lot of pushback because one of the first promo images released for the movie was the plastics on Wednesday wearing their pink looks, and I remember they were torn apart on Twitter the day that that picture was released, and I was like, they look fine, like, they don't look amazing, but I didn't have a lot of strong opinions about it. I do think that that look is probably the weakest look for all of them in the movie. Most of the other scenes, I don't really mind their outfits. In an interview with the costume designer, he talked about how this Regina George has masculine and feminine qualities, and you see that with, for example, the necklace she's wearing, which is half pearls and half metal on one side, like showing the masculine and feminine side of her. And that was what they wanted to bring to Renee's Regina George. The only thing that somewhat bothers me about this is I feel like the changes were made only to Regina's character, and because Gretchen and Karen are supposed to be followers of her, their fashion doesn't really reflect Regina's fashion, which then makes the plot kind of confusing because in the middle of the movie when Katie starts to wear the mini skirts and more makeup, you're like, who's she dressing like? I do particularly hate Gretchen's pink outfit and Regina's pink outfit just because they look like they took a bunch of pink things and just put them together and they didn't really think about it. And on Wednesdays we wear pink, but on Wednesdays I guess we also wear sneakers because they're all wearing sneakers in this scene. And then I find this odd because this is the day that Regina wants to give Katie heels to walk in. We haven't seen the plastics wear heels in this movie. This is why I have a problem with the costuming. The costuming was showing the evolution of the dynamics between the plastics, but I don't feel like it does the same thing in the new movie because Katie's not dressing like Regina. None of the plastics dress like Regina, really. I touched on this a little bit with the Halloween costume because I think in the original movie, they're all wearing somewhat lazy costumes, right? They're just putting on animal ears and lingerie. But then in the new movie, Regina's costume is a lot more of a costume, and the other girls aren't really dressed like that. And I don't want to minimize how Renee felt when she was in the Broadway production costume, so I understand why they want to go for a different direction with the movie. In an interview with the costume director, I read that he let all of the actors have boundaries about what costuming they were comfortable wearing because the interviewer was asking how in the original movie the costuming pushed the boundaries a lot and was pretty provocative for high school students and how they balanced that in the new movie. And I know there was also a lot of pushback because some of the outfits were from Cider. My favorite outfits in the film are Karen's, and they bring over some of her playful energy that she had in the musical, like when she's wearing a chunky sweater with floral applique on it. Also in the early 2000s, being very thin was very in, and now being kind of curvy is in, which sounds weird to say people's body types are trends. And after everything happens with the burn book, we see Katie start to dress like how she did before. But let me know how you feel about the costumes, and I'm going to give my final thoughts about the Mean Girls Multiverse. So I honestly don't really think the new movie is that bad. In some ways, I actually think I might like it more than the original movie. Actually, the first time I saw Mean Girls was in my high school health class, which sounds so weird because in the movie we get these little vignettes of Coach Carr teaching their health and human sexuality class, but he's like doing a really bad job and he's spelling things wrong, spreading misinformation. I'd obviously seen the Mean Girls memes all over Tumblr and stuff, but I finally got the context. And this was like over 10 years after the original movie came out, so I don't have the same nostalgia in my heart for Mean Girls, the original movie. We watched the movie to analyze how the girls fought with each other and backstabbed, and how it's different from how boys fight with each other in like a physical way. I do think this movie has some educational value because it does bring Rosalind Wiseman's advice from the book to the film in a digestible way. Although there's times I feel like Mean Girls falls flat with its messaging. I'm curious if anyone else has watched this movie in their health class or if this is a very weird thing. I would love to know. The main change they made in the musical was making it present day and adding like a little bit of social media. We always see the actors on stage with phone props. Basically everything happens the same way. It's just the winter talent show becomes a viral social media moment, and then Katie becomes popular online after that. For the new movie, they took this up an extra notch and made the plastics drama a viral TikTok thing where it was a discourse and people were talking about it, commenting on it, talking about Regina and Katie's appearance. In the montage, we also see people having group chats and texts making fun of Regina or praising Katie. It's all just background information about how the students feel about the plastics. It's kind of like how in the original movie they had the confessionals with the students where they would be like, I hear she does car commercials in Japan. It was the way of showing what the public's opinion of the plastics was. I think another example of how they change things but almost not enough is Janice's character, because Janice went from, I guess you would say, a straight character to, in the Broadway musical, they leave it open for interpretation kind of. I read in an interview with Barrett Wilbert-Weed that she said that they were letting the actor choose who Janice loved, which is kind of meaningless because it's not like she has any relationships in the musical. And then in the new movie, we have Janice's unnamed girlfriend, and she's an out lesbian. But I feel like the way that the homophobia is represented is kind of confusing in the other adaptions because it seems like they don't want Regina and the Plastics to be that homophobic. But that's a big part of their character when they're writing in the Burn book about Janice and about Damien, is that they're homophobic. I know a lot of people have criticism of the new Mean Girls not being mean enough, and I agree with some points. I don't necessarily think they need to be saying slurs to make them more mean, because Regina was very mean. She was always yelling at Karen and Gretchen in the new movie, but the comments that they were making about the other girls didn't seem like something that would cause world-burning chaos in the school. It just didn't seem as impactful. I think this is also because in the original movie we saw the other cliques at the school and the problems that their friendships were having, which made the Burn books secrets that they revealed seem more impactful. In the original movie, they have a lot of recurring students in the background that we kind of learn about their personalities, and then at the end of the movie, at the Spring Fling dance, Katie compliments them all sincerely. I think another part of the storyline I have a bit of an issue with is the Caltine Bar storyline, because I don't think it is ever really addressed about how Regina likely has an eating disorder. This is kind of brushed over. At the same time, I think the new movie is trying to push more of a body-inclusive image, as the Plastics aren't all the same body types and body size. But with the fixation on like the I need to lose 3 pounds thing, how is it any different from the original movie? And to a degree, I think the backlash of the new movie is unwarranted, because I don't think Mean Girls is this untouchable movie that we shouldn't make adaptions of. In some circumstances, I understand why fans don't want remakes of media that they love, but in the Mean Girls case, if you want girls to see Mean Girls, high schoolers and middle schoolers today, showing them the original movie and some of the language that they use in the movie might not be super appropriate and makes it seem very outdated. As for adapting the Broadway musical into a movie, I think they did a decent job. Obviously, they cut more songs than I think was really necessary, or I wish they would have reworked some of the songs so they could have used them in the musical. It's a very musical light movie, especially for being 2 hours long. So that's my main Mean Girls thoughts. I'd love to hear yours. I got the idea when I saw the new movie, and I recorded the Act 1 like a month ago, and I'm recording the Act 2 now, so I feel like tonally it's going to be so different. Ideally, I would love to edit videos faster and have a faster turnaround. A musical deep dive was something I've been wanting to do, and I was inspired because I went into researching Bad Cinderella a lot, and I was inspired by Ashley Norton's video and Sarah Z's video, and I know Waiting in the Wings did some too about Bad Cinderella. I didn't watch any videos about Mean Girls because I didn't want to be influenced by other people's videos. I know that Sarah Z also did a video breaking down the Mean Girls Broadway musical, but I was very inspired by these videos. I'm like, oh, I'm turning into a Broadway review channel. Waiting in the Wings, I'm coming for you. No, I'm joking. But I did have a big musical phase when I was in middle school and a little bit in high school. I think around Hamilton and Dear Evan Hansen, those were kind of the last musicals I really knew about. So because of Mean Girls, actually, and doing research for this video, I was checking in with a lot of new musicals that have come out in the last couple of years. So it was fun to kind of get back into an old hobby of mine and actors I used to love and seeing where they are now. I'd love to make more videos about musicals. I think it's great to also compare film to stage. I was also thinking maybe a Wicked deep dive, because if I start now, I could probably finish by December. That's not a joke. Anyway, have a good day and thanks for watching. Bye!
Love ya.